Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
Some four-legged friends visit the WEIU studios for this Paw Report Classic. The American Greyhound is the fastest breed of dog and officially recognized by the American Kennel Club since 1885. Coming up, we'll learn more about this breed and opportunities to foster this fascinating animal. We're going to talk about these two beautiful gems and the breed of Greyhound. And joining us today are also two special guests. We have Tamara Foss and we have Jeff Coggins with the American Greyhound group. So thank you so much. Tamara is a volunteer and a rescue worker, and Jeff, you're the president of American Greyhound. So thank you. This is exciting, and you know, we have two special guests, and Tamara, you're gonna introduce them. Two special guys. So thank you for joining us today.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Let's talk about.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, let's introduce our two friends on the floor here.
So this is Kenzie, and this is Callan. Callan was the first Greyhound that I fostered, and he joined the family very quickly. He was a puppy from a shelter in Decatur. And Kenzie came along about a year after and is kind of his rock, really. She has been a very settling addition for him. He was a little nervous initially on his own, so she's kind of helped him settle in, and they hang out and rely on each other quite a bit. So.
They don't go far from each other. That's for sure.
And she was the first Greyhound that I fostered for American Greyhound.
Wow. So both of you, Tamara and Jeff, why Greyhounds? What inspired you? What was your interest in this particular breed? They're beautiful. That's probably one thing. Jeff?
Well, I'm from Northwest Indiana, and every year at the county fair, the organization, the American Greyhound, was out there long before I had a Greyhound. And you know, we had heard different things about Greyhounds, and we'd gotten a brochure we kept in our dresser, and we said, one of these years. One December, we went up to a local pet store, and American Greyhound had a Santa Claus display, and they were taking pictures. So we took our little terrier, and my wife said when we were done, why don't we go back and see the Greyhounds, see how she gets along? So we went back there and met their Greyhounds, and she got along with them. I don't think she liked them that much, but she got along with them. And we weren't ready to take another dog, but the lady that was there, she had one big male, and we wanted a female.
Aww.
And I said, you know, we want a female. We're kind of thinking the spring. Christmas is not a good time to bring a dog into a home. Mm-hmm. She said, it's a good time for him. So, needless to say, the next day he came to our house, and he was our first one, George. We named him George Bailey, obviously, because it was Christmas season.
Yeah.
So I guess we kind of fell into it. Tamara, you'd worked with Dobes.
Yeah, I worked with Dobermans, with the Doberman Rescue prior to finding American Greyhound and joining them. And the main reason, just the athleticism that these guys have to offer. And they're a little bit, they're more of a breed that they've grown up together with other sighthounds, and they generally are very social with other sighthounds, whereas some of your protection breeds can be a little bit more, a little less into hanging out with other dogs. So I just kind of liked the idea of having dogs that would be buddies and also would be athletic. So.
Let's talk about the breed. The American Kennel Association, they have put them in the hound group, and I think most people associate them with being fast dogs. And but let's go back to their origin. They came from Spain, didn't they? I mean, and Greyhounds are probably known on just about every continent in the world.
Well, actually, Northern Africa, but the Moors took them across to Spain. And they worked their way around the eastern end of the Mediterranean as well, into Arabia and up into Greece and Rome, and then eventually into the British Islands. There are two trains of thought on the name Greyhound. Obviously, other than Callan's face, there's not much gray going on there. Personally, I like gray. As you can tell, most of my face is gray. But they're obviously not named Greyhound because of their color. One train of thought was that it was sort of a take on Grecian dogs, Greek dogs. The other one was in Old English, there's a term greyhounder for a hunting dog, and that's where they got it. I really don't know, but
George Washington had a greyhound.
Yes, he did. I believe his name was Traveler. Is that correct?
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Custer had
General
greyhounds.
Custer had a greyhound. So.
There was the movie with Tom Hanks where Julia Roberts had the greyhounds. The Holmans that own Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I believe her name is
Mary Holman.
Yes. She has greyhounds, and in fact, the greyhounds that Julia Roberts used in the movie, I believe, belonged to her.
Cool.
What's so great about greyhounds? What is their temperament like? Well, I suppose they can see
They're
today.
a good example. They're being a good example
Most people associate
right now.
them with greyhounds wanting to, all they want to do is run and run, because they are the fastest breed, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can outrun a horse, and they can run about, what, 40, 45 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Kenzie,
Come here, Ken.
baby.
Whoop, let's get your
got
foot.
you got your foot caught.
There you go.
There we go.
So yes, as far as sprinting, they do like a little zoom around the yard sometimes. Oftentimes we'll call it getting the zoomies out. They'll zoom around, but then they're pretty happy after just a couple of little zoomies. They'll come in and they like comfort, so they'll, they enjoy a couch if you're allowing them to be on furniture, and or they'll, find a nice good spot on a nice comfy dog bed.
They like to
blankets
lounge.
and
They like to run, and they like to lounge.
Yep.
What about the size and color and coat and really their physique? They're very thick in the front, and they're very thin and skinnier in the back.
Well, if you take a look at their silhouette and place it alongside a cheetah's silhouette, you'll find that they're very similar. And unlike all other dogs, twice in each stride, all four legs are off the ground simultaneously, just like a cheetah. So they run basically like a cheetah, not quite as fast. But their behavior also is like a cheetah in that they want to lay around like a cheetah would until the prey comes along and it's dinner time. Then they, but that physique lends itself to the way they run. They extend and all four legs are off the ground. They I guess contract would be when they come back together and all four are off the ground. And you'll notice there's a good deal of, you can see I don't know what you'd call those, the loin muscles along the back. They're very, very strong. We've seen Santa's Little Helper on The Simpsons, and my expectation when I first met a greyhound was that it would be all skin and bones. And I was actually shocked to see the amount of muscle that they carried. And it all plays into the way they run and the ability to run as fast as they do.
And their heads are very long and narrow, and they have excellent eyesight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
They're the one breed of dog that can virtually see behind them.
Yeah.
And what do they use that for? Was that in their hunting or prey or chasing instincts?
Well, originally they would have used them, and oftentimes it was the higher class of people that had the dogs in ancient times. They would have used them for sport hunting gazelles or jackrabbits in northern Africa or the Arabian area, and likewise on into Europe. They use them They continue to use them in Spain. They refer to the dogs as galgos. Some people will say that's Spanish Greyhound. They're a little bit different. Actually, believe it or not, a little bit more athletic than our Greyhounds, more nimble. So in fact, we got a couple from Spain about a year and a half ago, And I just arrived at work, and my wife called me that our little Galgo was up on the stove. And I thought she meant she had her legs up on the stove. She says, no, she's up on the stove. I mean, this dog could, from a standing still, she could jump 4 feet. So it was almost like keeping a monkey under control. Extremely athletic. But they continue to hunt rabbits in Spain with these greyhound-like dogs, Galgos.
Let's talk about their temperament too. As we can see, they're sweet, lovable animals. But what are they like in the home with you, and what are they like around children and maybe other animals in the house too?
Each dog is going to have a different personality, so it's always going to be kind of individual to a certain extent. But for the most part, they're relatively calm and laid back. They don't get too excitable. They enjoy, just being with their people, whether it's kids or adults, and they just kind of like to hang out, pretty much like these guys are doing here too. Mm-hmm. So they're not typically very vocal. Some can be, but or maybe howling on occasion at sirens, but as far as barking, they're not a very barky dog. They get along with other dogs for the most part. Some of them are fine with small dogs and cats too. Mm-hmm. Some will have a little bit higher prey drive, so they might be a little bit more focused on those smaller animals. But yeah, for the most part, they enjoy being with their families and just kind of.
Are they generally a healthy breed? Well, they're a bigger dog. Kenzie's a little bit smaller than Callan, but generally, are they healthy?
Yeah.
You would, I think one of our producers here said, do they have hip problems? Because it just, just physically looking at them, right. They're smaller and lankier in the back.
I've never seen one with the hip problems we see in German Shepherds and Labrador Retrievers. I can't explain that, not being a vet, but mm-hmm. my vet says the same thing. Mm-hmm. Is it possible for them to have hip dysplasia? Absolutely. We've never seen it. He's never seen it. The one thing that does afflict generally the racing greyhounds is osteosarcoma, bone cancer. Mm-hmm. In the veterinarians that I have talked to and heard speak attribute that to their breeding for a particular attribute in speed, and the bone cancer goes along with it. And most breeds of dogs do have that particular affliction that is unique to them, or not necessarily unique, but more breed. Common to that breed. Yeah. And that's the racing greyhound. It's osteosarcoma. Mm-hmm. At one time, we saw some a seizure. We don't see a lot of seizure dogs, and we do occasionally see seizure dogs, but it's not prevalent like it once was. But in general, they're a healthy breed. They're a healthy breed, and about a 12-year average lifespan, which is pretty long for a dog of this size. That's typically the smaller the dog, the longer they live. And I think I told you earlier, the first greyhound I ever touched, she passed away a couple years ago, but she was 17 when she died, which was
great life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit now, and thank you for sharing your knowledge on the breed. But we're also going to talk about two facets of greyhounds that are very close to your hearts, and that is the adoption program, mm-hmm. The Greyhound Rescue, and also the Inmate Experience program. So let's first talk about fostering greyhounds and that opportunity in Central Illinois. Tamara?
Well, fostering is awesome. I'll just say that. It's very enjoyable to bring a foster into the home, and I'm thrilled that American Greyhound is one of the groups that they're officially home-based in northern Indiana, but they opened up their reach to include us down in Champaign-Urbana, which was thrilling because it's fun to be able to have the dogs with you, from a volunteer standpoint. because you can kind of feel like you're doing a little bit more versus, just attending events or just monetary donations. So, so fostering is good not only for the dogs, because it truly helps American Greyhound accomplish all their goals, because everything, you focus on the foster homes that you have with the dogs that you bring in, because you can only handle so many dogs that you have enough fosters for.
Right.
So, so it helps the group as a whole, obviously, accomplish the goals to help as many greyhounds as possible.
Do you find that there's a lot of a greyhound large population here in Central Illinois? Are you encountering that?
It's funny that once I've started fostering and having greyhounds, I never saw them before, but when you get them, they kind of attract each other. So we actually have a greyhound walking group that meets Saturdays and Sundays and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 o'clock at Meadowbrook Park in Champaign, or in Urbana. And we all walk together. So it's cool to see, like 8 to 12 dogs or something. That's about as high as we've gotten so far, but as far as our max numbers. But it's a sight to see all those dogs together and people. And so there's typically comments from other walkers during that time.
If I could add something too. I was really excited when Tamara contacted me about fostering and getting something going in Central Illinois. And for what reason, I cannot give you an answer, but we historically have placed a lot of dogs in Champaign. Yeah. I don't know if, I remember one going to Decatur. I don't remember any going to Bloomington, but we always placed a lot of dogs in Champaign. So it really fit nicely, and that probably a lot of the dogs that Tamara sees suddenly in Champaign-Urbana were dogs that we adopted previously. So I thought it was a good fit for us. A lot of people said, well, it's a long ways away, but it really has worked out well. I mean, there's some frustrating things with the distance, but that's something we had to do, and I was excited to be able to do it. And we would like to increase that foster presence in Central Illinois, not just Champaign, really anywhere that Tamara can, because she is our point person there. Sure. Anywhere that she could,
help a family,
reasonably
and get
service.
To a family.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a couple of different times good fit. Let's talk about that. What makes a good fit? What family is a good fit to foster and eventually adopt a greyhound?
Well, we have a foster application. Basically, we're looking for a family that's not necessarily dog savvy, because we can teach that, but that they're interested. We don't want a family that we're going to get a dog down here for them and then a day or two later they're going to back out of it. We want somebody that's committed to the dogs. Maybe it's a family that's thinking about getting a greyhound. A perfect opportunity. They have no financial investment in it, is fostering. See how a greyhound would work in their house, and if it doesn't work out, well, they've learned without having to make the commitment for a dog. Generally, if we can develop a foster base, we start to develop an even heavier adoption base, and there becomes more and more dogs, and we've got a greater outlet for our dogs, and we can move more and more dogs from the racetrack or the shelter or wherever they may find themselves into our program.
Tamara, what are some things that families can do with their greyhounds? You mentioned your walking program, which sounds excellent, and I know these guys like to walk and run. But what are some other things if there's a family out there thinking, I've been thinking about it, but I might need some guidance on what we can do together as a family?
So greyhounds love to walk, so that's always something that at least all the greyhounds I've had as fosters, they've all really enjoyed going for a walk. So even if it's just a family walk together. Some greyhounds, this guy loves to play fetch, so you can do things like that just in the backyard. But then even if you want to stretch out a little further and get into doing events, there's lure coursing events that you can participate in. There's straight racing events. So it's basically just doing things for fun, and you can sometimes get ribbons depending on how the dogs do, but the dogs just enjoy those official activities per se sometimes. But then, certainly there's always just the general outings that you can do as a family.
Ride in a car.
Yeah, exactly. Go for a jog.
Sure.
But yeah, there's lots of different competitive things as just a general dog owner. Obedience classes that you can focus on and work on. Agility is another opportunity through dog training clubs. Barn hunt is another activity that is becoming quite popular amongst a lot of different breeds of dog too. So the events are all dog type events that can be enjoyed. And some of them, just the lure coursing and the straight racing, are more specific to kind of your sight hounds. Yeah, exactly. So
Jeff, talk about the other program I definitely wanted to hit on in this episode was the inmate experience involving greyhounds. What is it, and how long has it been going on, and is it happening in our area?
I believe there's something like that over near Indianapolis, so it's a few hours away. The program we participate in is in Coldwater, Michigan, which is in South Central Michigan. We participate, it's called TGIE, the Greyhound Inmate Experience. There's 3 organizations involved: American Greyhound, GEM, Greyhounds of Eastern Michigan near Detroit, and Allies for Greyhounds of Western Michigan. There are 20 total dogs in the program with 40 inmate handlers, 2 per dog. They teach the dogs basic obedience. They teach them the skills they need to earn their Good Citizenship Award. We became involved with that program in end of 2009, first of 2010. The track in Kenosha, Wisconsin was shutting down, and they needed the remaining dogs to stay put so they could continue their schedule of races. So we couldn't get dogs. There were no dogs grading off Kenosha, and we didn't have the resources we do now to get dogs, so we were kind of stumped. And one of our volunteers was contacted, could we take this dog? And I met him, his name was Dusty. I was amazed. He could sit on command, shake hands. It was amazing to me. And she said, here's the number for the lady that runs it. And I called her later that day, and we talked. And my only interest in the program at the time was, here's an opportunity for us to have dogs that were being fostered in this facility, and we didn't have to tie up our foster homes, so we could help more dogs. And that kind of segued into, well, not segued, it became a bigger deal to us after I attended a graduation, was able to go inside the prison. And I won't lie to you, I was a little nervous at first, but it's a large facility with about 1,200 guys in it, I believe, and it's more of a barracks, so everybody's walking around, but the guys were outstanding. They did fantastic things with their dogs, and I got to see that this program was more than just an opportunity for us to help more dogs. We were helping 40 men inside that prison. Many of them had never had an experience with a dog like one of these, and you could see, I mean, some of them were brought to tears when they would get up and talk about their experience, and it is really, really amazing. And sometimes that's not popular to talk about. I mean, these guys have committed crimes, and there's no choir boys in there. But you know what? Everyone that I've ever talked to said they're there because they're supposed to be there, and you can see there's some transformation in them from being a part of this program.
But it's the power of a pet.
Correct.
As we see here today.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tamara and Jeff, it's been a pleasure. I've fallen in love with these two. They've been all over, they've been kissing, and they're just loungers, and it's been so fun to hear more about the breed and about the programs that you're associated with. It's, you know, we need more people like you out there saving breeds and cheerleading for good breeds like the Greyhound. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being part of the Paw Report today.
Well,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
And thank you,
so
Kinsey
much.
and Callan. You guys can continue with your nap. We're going to end the program, though, right now. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Paw Report. We'll see you next time.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Power Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
The Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com. Additional support for the Paw Report provided from Soggy Paws of Mattoon.